Hello learners, and welcome to the last video in this NPTEL course on the 20th century women's novel. As I sit here and I reflect on this very exciting and very educative process of talking about all these novels, I'm filled with a sense of gratification as well as a sense of regret and loss, because this journey is over now and I will very much miss talking about these novels. Looking forward to discussing new ideas, new works. So it's with a bittersweet feeling that I sit here, and I'm going to turn that bittersweet feeling into some use as I try to offer a very brief, not a summary, but an overview and some reflective thoughts on what this journey has meant and where we, that is I, as an instructor and you as learners, can go forward now that one such journey is over. So what has this journey been like? I'll begin by talking about the kinds of ground this course has covered. And I've decided to divide that discussion into a few categories. The first such category is the geographical ground that we've covered in discussing the writers and the novels that we've covered in this course. So we've ranged quite literally across the globe, or at least across the major cultural centers as it applies to the study of English literature. We've covered quite a few writers from the continental US, that is Nella Larsen, Juna Barnes. Although Juna Barnes settled and wrote for many years in Europe, as I mentioned in my lectures, was born in the state of New York. We also discussed Marilynne Robinson, and obviously, who can forget Toni Morrison? We've also covered other regions, other continents. We've spent some time in the southern African region of Botswana, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. We've covered the work of Bessie Head and Tsitsi Dangaremga. We've also not forgotten the traditional metropolitan center of cultural and literary production in English literature, that is England and London. We've covered the work of writers such as Iris Murdoch and A.S. Byatt. Finally, we've ended this course with a return to home, as it were, return to our physical but also cultural and spiritual home in a way. Although such words are immediately suspect and one should approach them with a pinch of critical salt, nonetheless, we can safely claim that India is a sort of a cultural home to most of the people taking this course. And we've ended by discussing the work of Sunetra Gupta, who, although is a professor at Oxford University, writes about themes, places, sights, sounds, and realities that are very deeply embedded in the rich experiences and lives of India. Now, in addition to geographical ground, we've also covered a great deal of historical and theoretical ground. That is to say, in order to make sense of the novels by these authors whom I've just named, in order to truly appreciate and understand the power and the beauty and the joy of these novels, we've had to acquaint ourselves, at least preliminarily, at least in a very working, functional manner, with a wide range of theoretical and historical methods. I call them theoretical and historical methods because they offer a new way of reading these novels, but they are inspired by work in historical and philosophical scholarship. So what are some of these methods that we've had to educate ourselves in very briefly in order to understand and appreciate these novels? So we've reflected on things like hauntology, which figures most famously in our discussion on Toni Morrison, but I think hauntology is a theme that pervades this course. It's a remarkably powerful body of work, and it has the power to illuminate a great range of novels. We've had occasion to think about critical race theory as well as critical gender theory. These are approaches which I reflect on most powerfully in my thoughts on Passing by Nella Larsen and Knightwood by Juna Barnes. We've also had occasion to delve into Caribbean studies, the historical and literary mode of scholarship exemplified by the work of scholars like Simon Gikandi. whose work Writing in Limbo I discussed while talking about the work of Michelle Cliff. Now, we've had occasion to reflect on the history and the interpretive frames opened up by the historical events of the Middle Passage, also the historical phenomena of marronage, or slaves who rebel and who liberate themselves and who establish different alternative settlements, alternative colonies. We've thought about the diversity and the meaning of settler cultures in a diverse range of colonial contexts. We've also reflected on the most powerful theme, I think, which pervades all texts in this course, that of identity politics. What is identity? Can identity be given to an individual by a nation, by the community, or does it emerge from the accident of history, from the place and the time in which a person happens to be born? Is that identity? Or is identity much more radically a question of individual choice? Can a person choose their identity? And if so, can they choose to make it through a simple intellectual or theoretical decision? Or is this choice earned through the exertion of great intellectual, cultural, and emotional labor? And I would say one of the things we've learned in this course is that identity is a choice, yes, but it's not a choice that is earned lightly. It's a choice that has to be earned through a great labor. And these novels are nothing if not exemplary, beautiful, thrilling, compelling, and in a word, powerful examples of such exertions of emotional and intellectual labor. I'll end this last lecture by talking a little bit about the questions with which I introduced this course. The promo video for this course, which I'd shot, I'd begun that video with a few very fundamental questions about what are we doing, or what are we seeking or hoping to achieve as we embark on this very ambitious journey of reading and reflection. Specifically, the journey of reading 12 novels by women writers who are working in the English language in the 20th century. And one of the questions I posed in that promotional video was, we still don't know whether women's writing offers something new or something different, precisely through the fact that it is writing that happens to be written by individuals, by human beings who consciously or unconsciously identify as women. Does this identity of womanhood, femininity, does it confer upon the body of writing, on the literary and intellectual tradition of these novels, some new characteristics, something which writing by individuals who identify as male or as trans or any other category of human identity other than woman, can those bodies of writing not have these same characteristics? This is a very difficult question, and I'll try to reflect and maybe offer some response to that question here. One thing that we've learned in this course is that there is no one answer. In fact, this is a question that will always be alive. There can never be a formulaic approach to answering this question of how does identity create a new body of writing. In fact, one answer to that question that we can get from this course is that every novel, or at least every such novels of such high quality, writing of such high quality, and writing which seems to have such a great deal of semantic density, such writing needs to be approached individually. Each such novel creates a new worldview. Each such novel demands a new way of thinking about identity. Each such novel forces us to gather everything we know, all the facts, and all the new and emerging ways of thinking about those facts, both the facts as well as modes of thinking about identity. We are forced to draw on everything we know and to question it and to try and think about how all of that can help us understand, appreciate, and ultimately enjoy these very powerful novels. I'll end with a very simple but also metaphorical thought. Reading a novel is like stepping into a new city for the first time. It's full of challenge, it's full of promise, but it also has some risks. We can get lost in that city. We may not be able to find our way back. But the biggest prize or the biggest reason why we take these risks is that it promises us the possibility of returning in an enriched, better, improved manner to where we came from. And reading these 12 novels by Anglophone women writers of the 20th century is like stepping into 12 new and wonderful worlds, each of them with the capacity to surprise and delight us, each of them with the promise to give us new modes of thinking, learning, and of perceiving the world around us. With these words, I'll stop. It has been a very enjoyable and edifying process for me as I have read and discussed these novels. I hope that it has been enjoyable for you as well. I look forward to welcoming you and engaging with you in another future course in the near future. Thank you.